This morning's scripture, we talk about God's faithfulness towards the Israelites, even in a time when they were unfaithful to God. And we talk about God being with the Israelites and saving the Israelites, even in the wilderness, the most desolate and dangerous place they could be. And I keep coming back to this idea of wilderness, as I'm sure most of us have done at some point or other throughout the pandemic. It feels like we're in our own wilderness, as many people have pointed out. But for me, it's a little different. I've always seen wilderness as a place of home, of safety, of enjoyment. For me, wilderness means nature and wild places, and those are the places where I've felt closest to God. The places where, more often than not, I feel more myself than at any other time in most of life. And I'm filming this outdoors because that has been, for me, one of my spiritual practices throughout this pandemic. Simply sitting outside, listening to the sound of birds, sometimes the sound of traffic, but mostly listening to the sound of the wind or the rain, or seeing the sunlight bounce down on the ground and off the leaves, and knowing that in all of that, there is God. The Israelites, throughout their time in the wilderness, come face to face with God again and again, and they are saved again and again. And it turns out that God is most present in the wilderness, in the place of desolation, the place of danger. And I wonder how many of us during this last year have found God in this wilderness, have felt closer to God in the pandemic. Whether we've looked for new ways to seek out God, or we've sought out peace, love, hope in ways that we hadn't previously considered. And so for me, it's sitting outside and being reminded of God's faithfulness. No matter how bad the world seems, it's still beautiful. Even on a cloudy, rainy day, it's still God's creation. And there is hope in that. Even when we see the news stories of nature itself seemingly turning against us, there is hope, because all of it is God's. And we are God's. And if we are all created by God and loved by God, then no matter what wilderness we go through, we will always find hope. And we will always find life. And for me, that is good news.